What's up everyone, welcome back to Saint Seiya Awakening. We're back for another character review with the introduction of the newest saint into the game, Divine Cloth Leo, a completely free unit that the game gave us as part of the anniversary celebrations. We're gonna look at all the details, his cosmo, his equipment, his skills, whether he's good or not. But before we do, I want to share something with you that's actually really important to me. I was asked to participate in this campaign against online bullying that's being organized by Pony Malta. Now Pony Malta is a very famous drink that I grew up with in Colombia, so it's actually an honor to be working with them on this. It hits very close to home because, as you know, I have a young son currently going through middle school, and online bullying is a huge issue that I hear about all the time from him in school. I'm gonna share this 1-minute clip with you guys and invite you to join me in this initiative that we'll be doing tomorrow on Twitch. I'll be changing my username here in the game from Androli-san to No More Online Bullying. Temporarily, we'll go back later, but it's in support of this great campaign.
We lost because of the news.
Down boss, crying is the only thing this girl does.
I don't play with losers.
My name is Nick Anderson. In video games,
I go by Delta 14.
I got bullied a lot because I'm not the greatest player. They call me names like loser, noob,
Default.
My username is Hard Princess, but other players have called me dumbass, you are a girl, shut the go play with dolls.
I go by Notrix22, but because I'm a new player, they call me piece of Nobody wants you here, loser.
57% of gamers around the world have faced bullying at some point in video games. That's why this National Video Games Day, I will be changing my username from Androli-san to No More Bullying. I invite you all to join me in this initiative by changing your username and replacing it with some message against bullying this September 12th. Alright, now let's get down to business with Divine Cloth Leo AIOLIA, which is a completely free character that was given out as part of the 1-year anniversary celebration. He's a physical attacker with a kit that's a little bit similar to other saints, and then he also has one function that is the opposite of what some other guys does. Let's start off with the first one, called Ultimate Lightspeed Fist. This is a simple single target physical attack that deals either 100% physical damage or 140 on max skills. Now the additional effect is that it can stretch the duration of electricity, plasma, and ionization. And keep this in mind, especially this last one, because we found out through testing, and as always, you guys benefit from me doing the Spanish review first, because any mistakes I make there, I can correct here. Alright, so the first attack, individual, little bit of damage, and it stretches the duration of these effects. These effects are obtained with the second, third, and fourth skill. The second one, called Ultimate Thunderbolt, deals a little bit of physical damage, only 80% on skill level 1, but it also hits 2 additional targets on top of our main target, kind of like Milo does with his needles, and it applies static electricity to all 3 targets. Now that multiplier is really horrendous on level 1. It can go up to 300 on level 5, which is a huge improvement, but obviously that takes 10 tomes. So keep this in mind as well, the multipliers without skill ups are really mediocre. Skill 3 is almost identical, it starts with the same multipliers, it hits 1 main target and 2 additional random ones, but instead of static, it applies plasma. So now we have 2 of the 3 statuses mentioned in skill 1. Again, you can take this to 300% physical damage with 10 tomes. Now those 2 status effects do have an additional function. You can find it here if you go to more. Static electricity will cause enemies with that status effect to deal 10% less damage to us. Now this 10% reduction cannot be improved with skill ups, and I think that's a huge mistake. This could get a lot better if we could bring the damage reduction up. The other effect, which is plasma, causes enemies with that status to take additional damage. Kind of like Seiya's Weaken does, except Seiya's Weaken can go up to like 70% or 100%, this one is only 10. Both of those status effects last for 3 rounds. Now let's go on to the third skill, which is the really interesting one. Its first effect is that it increases the speed of Leo every time he attacks. That increase starts at only 5%, but on max skill it could go up to 25% extra speed with every move. Now we're gonna be trying to stack a lot of stuff, so we're gonna be moving a lot, probably with double turn, so this speed stacking can get quite crazy quite fast. The other effect is that when we can stack both statuses on the same enemy, that's the static and the plasma, that enemy immediately goes into a state of ionization. This will cause immediate damage to that saint. It starts at 100% physical damage and goes up to 400%, so the multiplier with skill ups is decent, especially because we're gonna be stacking a lot of stuff, right? He hits 3 targets, not just 1. Keep in mind that when that target goes into ionization, the static and the plasma disappear. That means we no longer have the damage reduction or the damage increase that we do. The enemy is going to be ionized for 1 round, so only until his next turn, and after he he moves, he's gonna deal true damage to his neighbors. That's why I said it's opposite of what Shiryu does, right? Shiryu protects his two neighbors, the faster one and the slower one. With Leo's skill, we can force an enemy to do damage to his neighbors. And here there's something very, very important that I didn't find out until after we finished the Spanish review. Now, I was able to mention it in time at the end of the review, but still, again, you guys benefit. This true damage that the enemy does is based on the enemy's attack power. It's the enemy that's actually dealing the damage, not Divine Leo. What this means is that if you ionize a really strong attacker, for example Thanatos, he's gonna deal a decent amount of damage. If on the other hand you ionize somebody like Luna, then the damage is going to be pathetic. You're gonna see this later in the trial area where I'm gonna show you exactly how these things stack and how they work. Just like with the damage reduction in the other statuses, this true damage of 240% cannot be improved with skill ups. What improves with skill ups is the speed bonus we get and the damage we do the moment an enemy becomes ionized. Remember, they take damage right away and then after their next movement they deal damage to their neighbors. Again, I think this unit could be a lot better if you could improve this damage as well. Lastly, before we move on to which skill ups are necessary, remember what we saw in skill 1 that it says that it can refresh the duration of electricity, plasma, and ionization? You cannot stretch ionization. It only lasts for 1 round and after the enemy's movement it disappears. There's no chance to refresh it, there's no chance to apply extra rounds to it. They're gonna deal true damage once and then you have to reapply both statuses and re-ionize the target. That makes it a lot less effective than it seems at first, because we have to apply 2 statuses with skills that cost 2 energy each, and then when that happens it gets rid of the static and the plasma and the other status only lasts 1 round. Now, skill ups. Definitely the 4th skill, the passive, is the one you want to go for. First, because of the speed bonus, because it has a really good combination with the legendary Cosmo we're going to look at in a bit. But secondly, because the multiplier on the initial damage at ionization really does go up quite well until 400. Once you max the skill or you get it to a decent level, maybe level 3, you can start moving on to these two and improving the multipliers. I chose to start with the 3rd skill because I figured I was going to be using it more because I value more being able to do more damage to the enemies instead of the enemies doing less damage to me. But if you look at it the other way, if you level up the 2nd one, then you can attack the enemy with this one first, right, which increases the damage that you do, and then the 2nd status you would apply with the 2nd skill, and you're gonna take advantage of the damage increase that you applied with the 1st one. So having a higher multiplier here on the 2nd skill might actually make more sense. But before I move on from skill ups, guys, I do want to recommend that you do not invest tomes on Divine Leo at this moment. I am hoping that they give him a huge buff. You're gonna see in the demonstration how hard it is to get everything to proc properly, but for now, skill him up only if you manage to pull duplicates from summons or if you get some of the specific skill volumes, the skill tomes, right? Not the blue ones, the ones that are only good for him. Over on the 8th, since he is a unit that if you're going to use him, you're going to use him in PvP, so you're going to want to open everything. I would start with Gamma, which gives us physical attack and life steal, then Alpha, which gives us physical attack and P crit level, and those are kind of equally important. You can do either one first, then move on to Delta, which gives you HP and resistance to both types of damages, and lastly Beta, which just gives you HP and status resistance. Over on his Cosmo, remembering that he is a physical attacker, we're going to have 2 possible builds. It's very often that we have that for physical attackers. You can either go really high crit rate, or you can try to go fast with a lot of physical attack. Now remember here that the true damage from his skill is not applied by him, but by the enemy. So you can stack all the physical attack you want, that true damage is not going to improve based on that. That's why I chose to go with a critical build. It will at least help the damage he does with his skills 2, 3, and with the initial ionization. For that purpose, I'm going with Fire Drop with physical attack, P crit effect, and HP. In the Lunar, it doesn't really matter. I happen to have some blooms which were already upgraded. They had decent physical attack substats, so I just put it on him. That way I don't have to build a whole new set. I think ideally you would want to go Spirit Print, but I'm really short on good ones right now. In Star, since we're going with a crit build, we obviously have to go with Staunch. This will give us the biggest P crit level increase. It also gives us a little bit of HP because he is a little bit squishy, and if you were going for a fast build, then Crystal Fire would be an option with the speed, physical attack, physical defense pierce, or another slow build where you don't have as much crit level would be Naga, the new Naga Pearls. Again, it's kind of a new Cosmo, it's hard to obtain. If you have a good set, you can test out the damage and see if you get more out of the physical defense pierce or out of the crit rate. Over on the legendary, I'm going to start off with the option that I mentioned earlier that's really interesting for him. That's going to be Chimera, which remember, gives us a physical attack and then a crit effect buff every time we attack, but it reduces our speed dramatically, 30% after every attack. If we manage to get Leo's 4th skill to level 5, that's going to give us 25% speed every time we move. We lose 30% with Chimera, so it kind of evens out. If you don't have Leo skilled up on the 4th one, then I don't recommend Chimera because you're simply going to be too slow. You're gonna move at the end of the turn, you're never gonna be able to kill anybody before they kill you. In that case, if you don't have the skill ups like me, you could go with Daffodil. Like we said, he's a little bit squishy, so it's gonna be easy for him to lose HP. The more HP you lose, the harder he's gonna hit, and there's always the combination with Divine Shun. The damage that he receives on the chain is not cancelled. It's apply on Shun's next movement. You can then re-protect him with the chain, leaving him at low HP, and take full advantage of the Daffodil buff. In subsets, you're gonna be looking for everything that improves his damage because he really needs it. Physical attack, peak crit level, lifesteal doesn't go bad. If you manage to squeeze a little bit of damage out of him, then he can recover a little bit. He has 7.5% from 8 cents alone, and speed only as much as you need to get him to the right location in your team. Now, there's one additional build that I'm going to mention before moving on, which is to go with a Leo that functions more as a support. Decelerator is a good Cosmo option in that case because he can apply it to 3 different units. If we are double turning him, then we can literally decelerate the entire team. You can make him tankier, focus on ionizing really strong attackers on the enemy team. Instead of him doing damage himself, he's going to use the strong units on the other team to deal true damage. How viable that is, I honestly don't know. It's a very new unit, even for China, so there's not really a lot of experience in using him. I will tell you though from testing that his damage is really underwhelming. There's a few crazy players that already skilled him up with blue tomes, and I think they're all a little bit disappointed. Over on teams, due to the fact that we're going to have to stack a lot of debuffs in order to get ionization and actually do something, he benefits a lot from double turns. But in his case, it's a tragedy that his skills use so much energy because that makes it pretty much useless with Hashun, leaving Luna, a very squishy unit, as the only option to double turn him. And if his double turn partner, in this case Luna, does die, then his effectiveness goes down dramatically. As we mentioned, he's an energy hog. If you want to apply both debuffs in the first round, you're going to need a total of 5 energy. That's 1 for Luna and 4 for Leo. So some sort of energy generation is going to be needed, either Kiki or Athena double S. He's also quite squishy, so protection is not a bad idea. The most popular choices right now are Divine Shiryu and Divine Shun. Divine Shiryu has the issue of the energy consumption, especially at the beginning of the battle, so Divine Shun is really the perfect partner. You can also do what I mentioned earlier of letting Leo get low, then protecting him with the chain and taking advantage of Daffodil. In attackers, because of the energy consumption, you're going to want to bring units that don't require a lot of energy. Now, Milo is a little bit out of fashion because of the presence of Thanatos, but you're going to be bringing a unit that you have to double turn anyway, so you're going to have to double turn someone. You might as well bring him, and then you have 2 options to attack. Shura is not a bad idea either. He can take people out of either Shiryu or June's protection and let Leo do a little bit more damage. Mew, obviously, if you can stretch the fight, then once he comes out, he's a great partner. And then there's also Radamantis, who can charge his wings really quickly if you go with a crit Leo. The gross combination of June and Hypnos with healing and then Leo to kind of stack damage slowly, that could work as well. Not my preferred strategy. It takes way too long to win battles. We actually tried that for the Spanish demonstration on Wednesday, and I ended up winning the fight after 10 rounds. Ain't nobody got time for that. Another attacker that I'll mention obviously is Thanatos. He pairs well with anyone, he doesn't use energy, Hoagie goes with Leo as well. On to his weaknesses then, and I think the list here unfortunately is going to be very long. First, his multipliers are horrendous. Without skill ups, guys, you are going to be tickling the enemy and you will never win. If you're fighting any type of healing comp like June Hypnos, you are literally never going to kill anyone. Not unless you skill him up. So we're talking about 20 something tomes just to get him to do decent damage. That's weakness number 1. The second one, energy consumption. We need to stack 2 debuffs and each ability costs 2 energy. That means that just to get to ionization and do a maximum of 400% damage, we need 4 energy. That's the same thing as using Ioros. He needs 4 energies, he one-shots someone, it's dead. And Ioros actually one-shots. I don't think Leo can one-shot with this level of damage. Then we have the fact that his ionization only lasts for 1 round, and that when you get it, the other 2 statuses disappear. This is insane, and I think it is embarrassing, and they should be ashamed of themselves that they tell you that you can refresh the duration of the ionization here when it's a complete lie. Believe me, I tested it in every which way possible. I checked on the official Discord, I talked to a bunch of people, players in China. You cannot stretch ionization. It's 1 round and it's done. Aside from that, he has the usual weaknesses of an attacker, which is going to be control. If he can't move, he can't do anything. He can be one-shot because he's quite squishy. He has a B in physical defense, a C in cosmic defense, and a B in HP. He's also not super particularly fast. He has an A in speed, but it's only 225. If you go with a crit build, it's very likely that you're going to be moving way at the end of the turn. Oh, and another one, which I mentioned earlier, but I'll repeat, the true damage that gets applied by ionization being based on the enemy's attack instead of your own is ridiculous. If you're fighting a team with a bunch of supports and just like one attacker, for example Thanatos, your only option is to ionize him, so getting the extra debuffs on the other people will do absolutely nothing. He's gonna be the only one that does any real damage, and if Divine Shun is in the team as well, then he can just protect one of the enemies that's gonna be hit, and you're gonna be literally literally hitting one guy. That is crazy. This damage should be based on Leo's attack, and no matter who you ionize, you should get a good chunk of damage in. His uses in the game are going to be PvP if you want to try, if you really like him like I do. He is really, truly, I think one of the best looking units in the game. If Bandai decides to make these toys, I'm screwed. I'm gonna have to sell one lung or maybe both in order to buy them all. But really, that's it. I don't think he's gonna be very good in PvE. One other thing I forgot to mention is this mechanic of hitting 3 enemies. Milo can do it, and Milo does it with no energy. Why would you ever bring a unit that needs 4 energy to a battle when Milo can do it for free? His kit just does not make sense, guys. I hate to be negative about him. I'm a Leo, so believe me, it's painful to talk badly of him, but his kit just doesn't make sense. He requires way too many things in order to work, and when he works, it's really just mediocre. It's not overpowered. It's not something that if you do invest the 30 tomes and you leave him 1-5-5-5, he's not gonna break the game for you. It's gonna be mediocre damage, and you would do much better putting those tomes into somebody more useful. Now, after taking this massive dump on poor Divine AIOLIA, let's go check him out in the trial area. And I'm gonna do it over there because it's a little bit easier to show you how things stack, how the effects look. In a real battle, there's so many different statuses and crap going on at the same time that it's actually hard to see the individual effects from his skills. Alright, here's the team that we're gonna use, and it's based basically on just double turning Leo and stacking things as fast as possible. Kiki to generate some energy, the same as Athena, Shun so he doesn't do anything, and Marin because she looks cool. I'm gonna start off by generating energy with Kiki, obviously, because you need 5 in order to get these things to work. Athena's kind of wasted, you really don't need that much energy, so I'm just gonna protect her with Shun, just to play around. Poke this guy. And on Leo's first movement, what I'm going to do is I'm going to weaken the enemy. Remember what we talked about earlier? If you apply the weaken first, this is basically like Seiya's weaken, except much crappier. If you apply the weaken first, then at least you can take advantage of that damage increase when you use the second skill to apply the second debuff, right? I'm going to lower the speed just to see what we can get. And I've equipped him with Vulcan Chain to give him a little bit more damage, all right? In this area, this guy is max skill. So he did, I think, 70,000 damage maybe with max skills, with Vulcan Chain, and notice that he hits 3 units, and he applies the debuff to all 3 units. It's not just your primary target, everybody gets it, but these 2 guys are random, you cannot choose. Now, I'm gonna go with the second one, and I'm gonna apply the second debuff, and notice, as soon as I do that, both debuffs are going to disappear, and this little guy is gonna go into ionization state. Let's go. Let's see if we can get a better look at the damage. Now he does 70,000 again, even though we had weaken on him. I don't understand. Alright, but notice, the debuffs disappeared, he goes into ionization mode with this little circle of electricity around him, and he immediately took damage.
Now he does 70,000.
On this enemy's next movement, he is going to deal true damage to his neighbors, and the damage is going to be based on his attack. So watch, he's gonna do like 270 damage. I'm gonna keep the speed low to see if we can do... This guy had ionization too. 259. This guy doesn't. These 2 only have 1 debuff. When this guy moves, he deals 389 because I don't even know why. It's 300 damage. It's crap. So again here, here's what we're gonna do to show you how this ionization stretching thing does not work. I'm gonna double turn Leo again, okay? And the way to know which statuses you already have applied is by the debuff. This is from the third skill, which weakens the enemy, and this is from the second skill, which decreases the enemy's attack. So, this one decreases the enemy's attack, I'm gonna use the third one to get the second state, right? We apply the second state, he gets ionized. Let's go. Boom, he does 79,000 damage again, immediately receives damage, and now this enemy is ionized. Now, theoretically, if this first skill was true, it says refreshes, but how can you refresh something that lasts 1 round? So I thought, okay, maybe it stretches it, right? So I'm gonna attack this guy, and now he's gonna be ionized for 2 turns. Did I just get 3 turns? That's the theory. This one you can't stretch. You can stretch the other 2, they last for 3 rounds, so you can refresh it to 3 rounds. So it's not really a stretch, it's just a refresh. And you can stack them as well. Look at this guy, he got 2 of the same debuffs, so you can stack them, but you cannot stretch ionization. And now just keep an eye on this guy, right? We're supposed to have, we tried to stretch the ionization. Watch what happens when he moves. Nothing. Ionization is gone. Well, not nothing. He deals the damage he's supposed to deal, and the ionization is gone. So there's absolutely no way to stretch it. Now, because of the speed buff that he gets from his passive, from before skill, we already have 5 speed buffs, so we're faster than anybody else here on the field of battle. If I apply this one right now, we're gonna ionize, and that causes the other 2 debuffs to disappear. So the 2 stacks of the weaken that we had gone. Another thing that makes him really hard to use. If you could keep stacking debuffs and dealing damage and ionizing and causing them to deal damage, maybe it would be a little bit more interesting. I just double turned Athena because I think the demonstration here is done. There's really not much else I can show you. Let's go to the conclusion at the end of the video. And that's gonna be it for today, guys. I am really sorry to rain on your parade if, like me, you thought Divine Leo was gonna be awesome. It's really cool that they gave him to us for free. I really hope he gets a buff, something like Shura. Remember, Shura got a buff before even they did the rebirth. So we don't have to wait for a whole cloth rebirth. Just change something. Change the energy consumption. Change the stretching of the ionization. Change so that it does damage based on his attack instead of the enemy's. Something to make it more useful. Please, Tencent, I'm begging you. Look how beautiful he is. And he's useless. I remind you guys once again then that tomorrow on stream we will be joining this initiative for the anti-online bullying campaign. It would be awesome to see you guys there, but if not, then we'll be back soon with another video. Please remember to hit like, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell so you don't miss any videos, and I'll see you guys again very soon. Bye!